I'm Dawn Robinson, and I am a premier leader for folks that don't know me. And I wanted to hop on today and talk about booking. So particularly booking hosts for parties. And if you haven't noticed, we've been rotating topics every week for our leader of the week. So we have book, sell, recruit, and this week is book. So that way you get kind of a little bit of everything from different leaders, because all of us have a little bit of a different style of doing things. And so I think it's helpful hearing how different leaders do things, because not everybody's the same and one size doesn't fit all, right? In one way, it can kind of make it a little bit complicated doing this business because there are so many choices on how to do things. But at the same time, I think it's better because everybody has different, circumstances. My dogs are going crazy. Like, as soon as I got on, they just started barking, so hopefully they're not too loud. So I just wanted to talk about booking a little bit, and in particular about word vomit. And if you've never heard that term before, my husband was laughing. If you saw my little teaser 30 minutes ago, I was like doing all these, like getting sick, pretending to get sick, like photos. My husband was laughing and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing a little promo for my training." And he says, "What are you doing for training?" And I said, "I'm going to be talking about word vomit." And he says, "What is word vomit?" So if you're like him and you don't know what word vomit is, it's basically when you're going to ask someone for something or asking someone to do something, and you're just oversharing. You're just talking. They can't get a word in edgewise. And mainly it comes from being nervous, right? All of us, especially when you're starting out, but even if you've been doing it a while, it is a little bit nerve-wracking to ask people to host and join. Because it's not something that you do all the time, and unless you're like a trained salesperson, it feels very unnatural, right? Because it may not be something you do a lot. So it's definitely one of those things that can tend to just make you really nervous. And so when you get nervous, you tend to speak really fast and you tend to speak a lot. And the same thing happens when you're writing, when you're messaging someone. You wouldn't think that as much of that would carry over when you're messaging, but it totally does. And if you've ever been the recipient of someone who's word vomiting, where they're just so nervous and they're just talking and going on and on, it makes you feel nervous and it makes you feel uncomfortable, right? And so you kind of want to get away from that situation, which in this case is doing the opposite of what we want. We want to attract people to our business and want to draw them to us, right? And what we want to do. So word vomit is highly detrimental to what you're trying to do when you're particularly trying to book hosts. And it's very easy to do, especially when you become nervous. So the way you counteract that is just, number one, identifying you do it. And one of the easy ways to do this is to go back to some of your messages if you message people for hosting, or even post. I would say this is even applicable to post either on your public Facebook page or your profile or your VIP group. It's the same thing. I really think in both requesting hosts and also for joining for people you want on your team, less is definitely more up front. Now, that's not to say not to give people information or to be sneaky or hide things, but I think it's a fine line in doing that and coming off as spammy. And the main difference in coming off as spammy is because you are selling something to someone who is not interested. That's being spammy. So how do you communicate with someone that you don't know is interested, right? So that you don't become spammy, first you have to find out if they're interested. And that's very short and sweet. Just finding out if someone is interested in what you want to talk about shouldn't take paragraphs and paragraphs of information in Hostess rewards plan and how party tiers and every theme we have and all the days of the week you're available. None of that information is needed to find out if someone is interested in hosting a party. And I think we've gotten such in a habit that direct sales has really gotten a bad rap, especially in social media, because so many people who are untrained in sales go and do that and they become very spammy, that people are very hesitant to commit because they've gone through that so many times. They immediately turn off when they think you're going that direction. So you almost have to pull back the other way to be even less salesy, even if it may not be spammy per se. You almost have to do a little bit even less than that, just so people don't immediately turn off and be like, this is spam, I don't even want to hear it, right? Now, if you saw my post from yesterday, I had posted a TED Talk talking about rejection. And that is definitely something that you are going to come across. You're asking people a question. You may hear no. And in fact, you'll probably hear no more than you'll hear yes. Me personally, my experience has been, and this is pretty much with anything, whether it be sales or bookings or recruiting or even performance in your team, for me, things tend to go in about the 10% range. So let's say for every 10 people you ask, you may have one person that says yes. Now, obviously, that's not always the case, but it's a nice little rule of thumb if you don't have any experience to know what your own rate of return is going to be, especially if you don't have any background in direct sales. If you're brand new to it, that may be a good kind of rule of thumb. So if you want to have 3 party hosts for a month, you may need to ask up to 30 people in order to get that number. And so that's a lot of no's. Dropping stuff. So that's a lot of no's. And I say no's, but realistically, and if you've done this before, you know it, it's not even so many no's. It's just people don't respond. You'll get ghosted on it. And we tend to take this a little personally, especially if it's people that we know. But it's really the word no. I mean, people just don't like it. We don't like to hear it, and people don't like to say it. And they would rather just like say nothing than say no. So don't take it personally. What I usually do in that case, if I ask a question and someone doesn't respond, is just the next time don't feel bad and feel like you have to avoid them after that. The next time you have a reason to talk to them, just go ahead and talk to them like you never even asked them the other question. And probably like 9 times out of 10, they'll just keep talking to you after that, because it's not personal. It's not that they have anything against you. It's just really they want to say no for whatever reason, and it may have nothing to do with you. They just feel bad saying no, so they just say nothing. Okay? So what are some of the ways that you can ask someone without asking? So this is a little bit psychological here. And again, the only reason that we have to do this is not so much that we're trying to play games with people or manipulate people. It's mainly so that you're not triggering their spam response. Because people really have that very strong response to, if they feel like something's spam, they just turn right off. And so you're just trying not to trigger that, not so much that you're trying to manipulate somebody with the way you're using your verbiage. But many direct sales leaders and trainers will say that how you ask things really does matter, and the verbiage you use really matters. Asking someone, will you be a host, or will you join my team, immediately turns people off because they consider that spam. You're asking somebody something without even know if they're interested in whatever it is that you're asking them to do, right? And so you have to be a little bit more indirect about it. And there are some specific words. Well, before I get into that, talking about word vomit, you're definitely not going to be giving them, in regards to hosting, you're definitely not going to be wanting to give them the hostess rewards information, when you're able to book, how you can do the parties. You know, we feel like people need all that information in order to decide to host, and I've found actually the opposite to be true. And it can even be with booking rewards and things, like whatever extra stuff in addition to the host rewards. Most people aren't making a decision based off of what the host rewards are, or based on what the themes are, or based on any other stuff you would be giving them anyway. So it's just extra stuff that's not really necessary, just to find out if they're interested, right? That's word vomit. If you're looking at your past request to host and you're having like 10 sentences, 3 paragraphs, whatever, you are saying too much. You should be saying 2 to 3 sentences, and that is it. And really, this should be a relief to most people that you don't have to say that much. You can just ask more people. Remember, I said you may need up to 30 people to get 3 hostesses? Imagine how much time and work and effort that would be to talk to 30 people if you were having to write this novel and to, you know, have this super long conversation for all 30 of those people. That would be exhausting. But going back and doing the same thing and just asking 30 people, you know, just stating 2 or 3 sentences, you know, maybe do 5 a day. Like, that's way more manageable, in my opinion, and a lot less intimidating. So this is really, really less work than what most of us would typically do without realizing it, right? So word vomit is actually like a ton of work. You're finding graphics and you're finding verbiage and you're, you know, writing these big, long, you know, essays about why it's so great to be a hostess. And you're doing all this work when someone may not even be interested. So why would you put that much effort into it if they have no interest whatsoever in hosting? So what do you say? Let's get to the nitty gritty, the real meat of it. What do you actually say? And again, it's very little. It's like, yes, you want to know all that information about why it's so great to be a host, because if they say yes, you need that information, because you're going to have to, that's the next step. So don't be caught off guard when someone says yes and then you don't know what to say to them after that. So you still need that info, but don't waste all that info on someone who has no interest whatsoever in doing that. I mean, you're just setting yourself up for failure with bad expectations if you're expecting that you're going to throw all this work into something and everybody's going to say yes, because we know that that's just not the case. So a few things, you know, you're not going to say, hey, do you want to be my hostess? There are a couple of kind of nuances. You'll hear some people like compliment someone first and kind of like a multi-step rapport building type thing, which is fine. And I think that works too. But probably more so if you want to shorten it even more, if you really want to work on your word vomit and make it as concise as possible, I would do even less than that. The thing about rapport building is it works great if you're a people person and you're more of a type A personality and you like to talk to people and you're comfortable talking to people. Building rapport is great for people like that. The problem is not everybody's like that. Not everybody's good at talking to people, right? And having conversations, in which case, if you're trying to build rapport with somebody, you're actually going to turn them off because it's going to feel very awkward, because that's just not the type of personality you are. So it's better to get to the point, but in a way that's not so direct as like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Right? Like, hey, do you want to host a party? Hey, do you want to join my team? Like, hey, do you want to, you know, you don't need to be all in someone's face to do that at the same time, you know, building rapport forever, right? Unless you are inherently know like when to make those transitions, which some people are very good at that. And I will say, like, I'm a type A personality. I'm very extroverted, you know, but I would expect everybody to know how to do that. That's, you know, not a skill everybody has. So Sherry, and yeah, there's a lot of people that are introverted. I would almost say like the majority of people are introverted. It's not, you know, it's like everyone is able to talk to people and be, you know, otherwise we'd all be, you know, sales superstars, right? And those people exist, but that's not everybody. And the great thing about direct sales is it is for everybody. Anybody can do it, but it does take a little bit of training. It does take a little bit of practice. And just kind of knowing those trigger words. So we know we're not asking directly, hey, you want to be my friend type vibe, right? Unless it works for you. If you're an extrovert and that kind of language works for you and you're able to build rapport and be able to get, you know, attract people to you that way, keep doing it because obviously it's working. But if that doesn't work for you, which is probably most people because you're not extroverted, here's what I recommend, right? A magic word in direct sales and network marketing in general, when you're asking someone to book a party with you, join your team, whatever, buy your product, buy a big fat yummy hand cream, whatever, a magic word that is non-spammy. You ready? Information. Giving someone information is never going to come off as spammy. I mean, you can make it come off by putting other stuff, but if you're truly just asking if someone wants information, no one's going to feel like that's spammy. Okay? And that's really again, like I said, you're trying to even see if they're interested, right? So it's another way of asking if someone's interested. It's like, did you know that I sell pampering, bath, body, and skincare products? Would you like some more information on my product or hosting parties or what it's like to work for Posh and be a consultant? Whatever. You're not asking them to be a host. You're not asking them to be a consultant. You're not asking them to buy the product. You're just asking if they want information on those things. So just changing the words a little bit like that tends to not trigger that spam response. Okay? So we're not being manipulative here. We're just trying not to trigger that spam response that people have after the bad rap direct sales has on being spammy, because it's true. It's a lot of people are, right? So the first thing is asking, do you want information? And you can make that a little bit more flowery, but notice how that's like only a couple sentences. You're like, hey, I've recently become part of this company called Perfectly Posh, pampering bath, body, skincare products. Would you like some more information on what it is that I'm doing? 2 sentences. No more. You're not giving them the information unless they say they want it. So you're just asking, do you want the information? You're waiting for them to say yes. If they want the information, then you give them the information on your big fat yummy hand cream, your hostess rewards, your starter kit, whatever it is. But first you're asking if they want information. Now this is really more geared towards someone that is more cold market, that you may not know well, that may not know anything about Perfectly Posh. So this is not for people that are in your VIP group. This is not for current customers. That's for someone that you've never talked to Posh about, okay? If it's someone who's in your warm market, so someone who knows you've been doing Posh for a while, that's probably tried a big fat yummy hand cream, who has ordered before, who's in your VIP group, who has maybe hosted before, who has tried samples, someone you've sent samples to, and samples are another great way to give info. You know, giving samples is like giving someone info. It's like, would you want to try this out? You know, you're not selling anything. You're just having them try it. That's a form of info, right? So when you're working with your warm market, you have a little bit more to go off of because these are people that are already slightly interested. They've already kind of indicated they're interested because they've purchased before, or they're in your VIP group, or they've attended a party, or they've accepted samples and tried them. These are people, that's why they call them your warm market, because you've warmed them up a little bit already. They're not just cold. They already have expressed some interest. So now you can work a little bit differently with people who have already told you they're interested, even though they may not have told you they're interested, right? They have told you they're interested, just not in so many words. So your tactic is a little bit different then. You can do a little bit more without triggering the spam response because they've already indicated they have some level of interest, right? One phrase that I love to use with someone who is in my warm market is, you have previously mentioned. I always like to start with something they have said. And the reason why I like to do that is because it's making it about them and not about me. Whenever you start off with I am looking for hosts. I have this great rewards program. I am looking for people on my team. I am running this challenge. I am trying to sell so many of whatever. I am trying to earn this trip. You are making it about yourself. And you always want to try to make it about the person that you're talking to. And one of those ways that is very easy to make it about them and not about you is saying you previously mentioned, because that tells them that you listen to what they say and it's something that they said. So obviously it's something that they're about. Now, there's a couple of ways you can use this in regards to hosting parties. For me personally, when I run parties, so when I have a hostess and I run parties, I have a sample request form that I have folks fill out. And I actually got some of this verbiage from Denny. She had it in there, but I know there's a lot of different variations from this. One of the questions in the sample response form is, are you interested? See? This goes back into the do you want more info? Kind of the same, just a little bit different flavor. Are you interested in earning full-size, perfectly posh products for free? And then they answer yes or no. Now, let's get real. Most people are going to know that you're hinting at, hey, do you want to host a party? But you're just not saying that. It's asking it in such a way that it's not so confrontational, right? Are you interested in earning free full-size product? And they say yes. As soon as they tell you yes, they have told you that they are interested in hosting. They are already a warm market. They have already told you they're interested. So now you can go one step further and actually give them info. It's not spammy. They already told you you're interested. And you need to make sure that you remind them that they've already told you they're interested. Right? So it doesn't seem spammy. You're like, I'm not just giving you this info. You asked for this info, right? You previously mentioned when you filled out my sample request form that you may be interested, that you were interested in finding out about how to earn full-size product, right? You previously mentioned that. Would you be interested in hosting a posh party in order to do that? I have all these hostess rewards, and in fact, I have 2 different themes that I'm working on this month. Let me know if that sounds good. And in fact, I'm going to change that a little bit, that last one. What are your thoughts? That's another term that I like to use a lot too, because again, you're putting it on them. You're not making it about you. You're making it about them. So it's like, you previously mentioned in my sample request form that you were interested in earning full-size perfectly posh products for free. What are your thoughts on hosting a party? with me. I can do some real easy ones on Facebook. I have some fun themes. Look at all these rewards you can earn, right? Now, in this case, I am giving them some information because they've already said that they're interested. But definitely, even when you're giving them that information, you want to make it about them and not about you. And be very careful. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of nice, especially if you're introverted, to work on Facebook Messenger or even text, because you're able to really look at this verbiage and think about it and have some time to respond, as opposed to just being put on the spot when you're talking to someone live, right? And that's why a lot of introverts actually do really well doing direct sales on social media, because writing something, and that they have a little bit more control over the flow of the conversation, is a lot more comfortable than just talking to someone face to face, right? So take advantage of that, but be aware of how you're writing the words. And that's one of those things that does get easier the more that you practice. But always asking, do you want more info? If you know they're interested, if you know they're in your warm market, they've already shown them some interest, whether they've told you that or not. People in your VIP group have already told you they're interested in Posh. They're in your Posh VIP group. If someone is invited to a party and they accept the party, you know they're already interested in Posh. They came to your party. They requested samples. They, whatever. They've already told you that they are interested. If you know they're interested, I love to use the phrase, you previously mentioned, and you can even do this even if it's not a sample request form. If you just see a comment that someone puts in a party, it's like, you previously mentioned that you loved Snarky Bars, that you've tried one before and you absolutely loved it. What are your thoughts in hosting a Posh party so that you can earn some of that for free? You previously mentioned, what are your thoughts? And then hear what they say from them. And don't say any more until you get a response back. Your rate of return is going to be much, much higher for something like that than just going straight out and saying, hey, I'm looking for hostesses. I'm filling my calendar for next month. What would you like to be a host? That's really intimidating to a lot of people. Just talking them through the steps, it's like, I know this is something you're interested in. Let me help you do that. That is way less intimidating. So I hope that was really informative. I know it's not a lot, but I think they're very important concepts. Sometimes the simpler things, mastering the simple things first, makes everything else so much easier. You kind of got to get the basics down before you do the more complex stuff. And I really think that's a lot of the problem people have when they first get into direct sales, especially, and when they try to book parties and try to sell and try to get recruits, is they're trying to do the advanced version, right? Building rapport, trying to do all these conversations. Attraction marketing, in my opinion, is an advanced skill for direct sales. I think you really need to get the basics and really just talking to people as people and not talking at them, which definitely is what word vomiting is. You're talking at someone, making it about them. All those are things, if you can do that, you don't need to be really great at having conversations with people in order to make that work for you. So definitely take, for some homework, take a look at some of your past kind of conversations with people about hosting. Mentally think about, hey, how can I maybe change that in the past? And I'll tell you what, I've been going through, because I've been booking my summer parties, I've gone through some people that I asked them last summer and they've said no, or they've ghosted or whatever. And I've looked through how I asked them previously, and we may have had some conversation in the meantime since then. I've asked them again, just using different, you learn more and you do better. Asking them the same thing, but in a different way, using some of the information that I'm telling you about. And then I get a yes. Because it does take a little while for some people to warm up to the idea of stuff too. So unless someone is really passionately like rude, no, absolutely, I never want to host a party, leave me alone, like, you spammer. If they're not being rude to you, if they're just ghosting you or just not telling you anything or saying no, not right now, or giving you an excuse that you know really means that they're just not interested right now, don't take that as a personal, rejection. Feel free to ask them again. I mean, you'd be surprised. Sometimes people just need a little time to think about it and to warm up to the idea, and that's all they need, to really get to it. Just like I had posted in that TED Talk earlier, sometimes if you just go one more question after the rejection, sometimes that's all people need to change it from a no to a yes. So asking them why, or asking it in just a slightly different way will get you a different response. So don't just, run away after you get that no. And then you might get more yeses. So if anybody has any questions on this, let me know. I'm even happy to, if you wanted to post any verbiage that you have been using to ask folks and you're wanting some feedback, because we have lots of leaders here and I'm sure everybody would be happy to give some feedback on what it is that you're messaging folks, what your verbiage is. If you just want to tweak it a little bit and post it, feel free to do that too. But I hope you guys have a great week. Happy Wednesday. And when I went on the first time and then I ended up deleting it. I don't know if y'all heard. So the reason why I didn't come on yesterday, I'm glad I said today and not yesterday, is because I'm a first-time grandma. Y'all, my grandson Emmerich was born last night. I'm super excited. I have not seen him yet, but of course there was a lot of excitement yesterday. As my oldest daughter was in the hospital giving birth and doing all of that. So I'm glad. I kind of thought that yesterday was going to be the day, so I didn't want to do training yesterday. Hi, Amy! I'm just wrapping up. You're going to have to watch the whole thing again. But I was talking about my grandbaby, Emmerich. So he came yesterday and I have not seen him yet. They're pretty strict at the hospitals right now, as you would imagine, with COVID. So I'm going to try to go tomorrow. They're kind of asking to see if I can. Otherwise, I'm going to have to wait till they get home, which won't be too long, but still, I'm excited to get his little squishes in and to love on him. So, if y'all can keep him in your prayers, that would be great. But he's doing fine. But that's why I was waiting till today to do this training. So thanks for waiting an extra day for your Tuesday training. And if you guys want any feedback on your booking verbiage, feel free to pop it in the comments there and we'll help you out. Talk to you guys later. Bye.